Look, obviously, you know, I'll head this off at the pass. I did not finish or start DMC yet, so I'll get around to that as soon as I can. But I, despite my best efforts, have had a full week and have not been able to get through it.
Too much. You watched the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing and I finished it yesterday.
I think I finished it the day before. So I have some thoughts. Oh, Devil May Cry.
Please lead.
So Wooly, a little bit ago when we watched that trailer that came out, and I said I think the trailer looks okay. I was like, and my basic takeaway was like I did not like that Ragni and what was it?
Agni and Rudra.
No,
was I more negative than I'm
yeah,
remembering?
you went, oh, that's a piece of shit, is what you said verbatim.
Okay,
and you said this thing's gonna be dog shit, and I went, okay, I'm hoping it's gonna be good. You're like, why do they have heads? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That is you know, but like
so you've fallen into my trap here, Wooly, because I was trying not to toot my own horn because I was super right.
Right.
And the fact that Agni and Rudra have heads is a really, really good preview
of what it's going to be
with this thing.
Yeah.
So
I've seen the energy. I've seen the energy from outside the room. I've heard the music and the thumping, and I'm hearing a lot of people are not very happy with it. I've seen one or two people say they enjoyed it, but for the most part, the energy has been negative.
I would say,
while dodging spoilers.
So it is. I'm gonna say it is better made than the older anime.
Okay.
Like it is better acted. It has more dialogue.
It's well acted.
It has action scenes, unlike the old. And yeah, right. There's no question there. However, I think that your personal enjoyment of the adaptation of the Devil May Cry video game series is inversely proportional to how much you personally enjoy the Devil May Cry video game series. Because this is on its own show, like as a completely separate thing with no Dante and no Lady and no demons and no Virgil, etc. It's all right.
Okay.
Like it's okay.
Okay.
As an adaptation of Devil May Cry, I would describe it as antithetical, anti-canon. It is explicitly ignorant of all the things that you liked in Devil May Cry that were not wacky woohoo pizza man.
Okay. Okay.
It reads like a person wrote it after playing Devil May Cry 5 only, and then looked on Google for wiki entries about the manga or DMC3 or whatnot.
Okay. It's interesting because I'm thinking about how I watched Castlevania just season 1 and 2, and as someone who is not strongly attached to Castlevania, I really enjoyed those shows, but I don't know if that continues to be the case for anyone that's a Castlevania diehard. And that's another Adi Shankar example, right?
This is the exact path this conversation was going to go, because Devil May Cry is would you agree, Gene, that it is a remarkably poor adaptation?
1000%.
Okay. So Castlevania is also not a particularly good adaptation. And part of that is because Castlevania 3, I don't know if that game even has any fucking dialogue.
Story or dialogue, yes.
That is a NES game, and the story of Castlevania 3 is there's a castle, kill Dracula. Right? Now, later on, we have Curse of Darkness and Lament of Innocence, where Hector and Isaac come from, and then they were very, very, very substantially changed from their origins. But the core of Castlevania for tons of games is kill Dracula.
Right.
Is Dracula is a bad vampire, kill fucking Dracula. So they had a lot of room to work with.
There wasn't a series of detailed voiced cutscenes and massive dialogue that had to fit into the characterization of these established.
Right. So when I see Trevor Belmont is super crass and super rude, and and Alucard is very snippy and all that shit. I'm not really comparing that to any existing source material because Trevor Belmont, I think he only spoke in that, like, in the win quotes of the shitty Wii fighting game, Judgment or whatever the fuck it was called.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot to go on. And so there's a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
And as long as they told their own decent story, which I think Castlevania, those first 4 seasons are pretty good. I like the second season the best, but shocker. And it has really cool animated action. And they include the gimmies. They have the Morningstar whip. They have, crosses. They kill vampires. They have the music. They have the right music in the right places, that kind of thing. Okay. That season 3 was not great. As somebody in chat said it, and I have to agree. I look at these two and they're not very faithful adaptations. The problem here is that, like, Devil May Cry has, like, tons of voice acting, tons of cutscenes, established characters, established ways that characters act, talk to each other, established voice actors. So when they're adapting it and they're using like Johnny Young Bosch does a pretty good job. I think Johnny Young Bosch is great. I think they should have picked literally anyone else to be Dante, because this isn't like bad casting. This is like the wrong person is playing Dante. It's in fact the only wrong person they could get to play Dante,
and for no fault of his own, certainly. Yeah,
right. Because I know Johnny Young Bosch as Nero, it takes me out of it. Whereas somebody who
didn't have that association wouldn't have a problem with that, and he's a great voice actor. Yeah. So something I've heard come up as well is that, like, I've seen popping up. It's like, this is Addie's fanfiction story, right? And the question there is that in and of itself is not like a damning indictment, unless it's poorly done. And I guess in what you're saying is, like, if it's like betraying some of the existing material there, right? If someone creates something and goes, yeah, this is not canon, this is its own world, but it's still an interesting treatment of existing property and material, then that could be fine, right?
So it's not canon.
Mm-hmm.
It is wildly, insanely not canon.
Mm-hmm.
It is as not canon as you could get. And they set that up right away because there is no magic in this. Everything is technology. Demon magic, that's actually demons being really advanced with quantum entanglement.
Lots of technobabble.
They take the time to actually explain that.
The amulet, Sparta's amulet, that is a wormhole generator. That is for using quantum entanglement. They have a dedicated scientist character in the first couple of episodes who will point at things that would be magic
and explain the magic.
That's and give you some Star Trek psychobabble.
Yeah. We're explaining this instead of seeing Dante do cool stuff.
Okay. So
the first episode's really
so Agni and Ruja are red and blue for scientific reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
So, no, it's still magic, but they're using quantum. Demons just have natural quantum entanglement.
Okay.
This goes on further in the metaphor because it's not like it's hell, but it's not hell. They're not really demons. They're actually like aliens.
Oh, so it's just science fiction that's forcing its way into the setting without just hell, heaven, demons, and magic bullshit. Like it's changing the genre into sci-fi.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's kind of like Doom 2016.
Yeah, it's kind of
right.
And furthermore, when Sparta wakes up to justice, which is never said, by the way. The phrase woke up to justice is not in the thing. And he seals off the human realm and the demon realm. This is a minor spoiler for 2-3 episodes in. You know how demons present and devils present in the Devil May Cry series as 99.99% slobbering freak beasts that are demons?
Mm-hmm. And then there's the cool, super strong ones.
In the Devil May Cry television show, 99.9% of demons are people that are also just aliens. And Sparta woke up to justice and sealed them off, and that's a problem.
So hell is just an alternate reality where
it's just an
quantum entangled beings exist. Okay.
And
all right. Got it.
It starts to get the metaphors that they are using for the story start to get really messy and kind of gross. Dante has his moment where he, turns into a devil. He's a devil trigger, right?
I have a lot of words to say about that, but I'll let you continue.
And he describes it as being overcome with rage and hate and violence. But we just established that devils are just like regular people. So what the fuck? No, that doesn't make any sense, bro. So the whole theme of even a devil may cry doesn't make any sense at all. Like at all.
Also, the part where he's half human and half devil, and they're both parts of him, and you're rejecting one and embracing
what is he
the
overcoming if devils are just like regular people? And then we come to, well, if devils are just regular people, well, we need to have, characters really fight that narrative. So what we're gonna do,
aliens may frown,
is turn Lady into the worst character I have ever seen in my life. Gene, can you back me up on that?
The biggest problem with the show is the portrayal of Lady and how she is a completely unlikable person. Doesn't really have an arc kind of.
She's just kind of awful the whole time.
SWAT team tech soldier lady?
No, more like Gestapo.
Word.
More like
I'm so serious. I'm so serious about that.
America Defense Force.
Okay.
Dress in the fucking skin of Captain Commando.
Yeah, she's dressed up like Captain Commando, and she is the worst example I have seen to date of this character needs to stop swearing. Every single line of dialogue has one or two like F-bombs in it. Edgy to the max. Insanely unlikable. Her own narrative doesn't make any sense. No. She is stupid. Like she's actively stupid.
She's stupid. She's not a good shot. She's not a good shot. She's missing all the time. Shooting anything, when she hits something, it's because the story needs to progress, and the story says now is the time for Lady to shoot somebody, or she would sneak up on somebody and shoot them because they didn't know she was there. But other than that, though, she is missing like 99% of her shots.
Woolie, if I would say,
I
would say that Lady is actually the series' main character. I'm pretty sure she has more scenes than Dante.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Woolie, let me ask you, if there was a big fight and Dante was able to fight Agni and Rudra and Angelo Calaviere and Echidna from DMC 4 to a standstill, would you think that's maybe pushing it?
If Dante could fight all of them together at the same time to a standstill.
Yeah.
Young early Dante.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, perhaps.
Okay, well, what if Lady did?
Okay. I really enjoyed Lady's simple but basic arc that was really angry about her parents' stubborn kid into like the chilled out version who looks at Nero and goes, it's true, you never forgive yourself for that, or you never recover from killing your parents, and just kind of has a little a little arc in the background, and that's what I enjoy about her.
So
that is what we enjoy about her.
So you're like, okay, well, it is not the same universe. This is a different interpretation of the character. Right up until Ari Shankar says that actually this is stuff that he felt was going on in the background that you couldn't see in Devil May Cry 3, and this is the real version of Lady that was always there. And this is very accurate to the character, and you're like, no. Do you remember when he made all those tweets about how Virgil was actually a hero?
Misunderstood, and Mundus was misunderstood in the joke about
and then
that.
He rolled those back and was like trolling.
And then we saw the stage play character and stuff. Yeah.
I don't think he was trolling.
I think he was lying.
I think
he was lying when he said when he backpedaled.
I think he was like super serious.
So I what
he really believes all that shit.
I just I'll go experience this myself and see what's going on, but I definitely am curious about the things where there's like each season is going to have different flavors to it, and there's a whole arc across multiple seasons, and talking about it from that kind of like larger perspective. It's like it's not a Castlevania situation where you jump forward a generation and bring in a whole new cast of characters, right? So whatever the groundwork is from here is the groundwork that has to go forward. Huh. Okay.
So I'm gonna talk around this in a way that I hope isn't specific enough, but it needs to be said, and I need to talk to Gene about it.
If you need me to just
no, I need you to hear it. I need to talk to you about it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna dance around in a way that you'll get the gut gist, but not the specifics. So one of the things that I was struggling to articulate until someone I was talking to mentioned it to me was the Roland song in the intro, right? And Evanescence. And it was like, well, because that's the kind of music that was popular and came out in 2003, 2004, 2005 when DMC 3 came out. So it seems really appropriate. And I didn't really have like a good gist of like why I thought that wasn't perfect. Like I was like, oh, that's really cool putting an Evanescence song, and Roland's fun for the title.
Yeah, it wasn't the music in the games at the time.
Right.
But
so I was like, oh, well, that's promotional stuff. Oh no, that's the whole anime soundtrack.
Okay.
It's licensed stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me as much, but
wait, no, I'm building to something. I'm building to something here. And they've said that, certain songs from the Devil May Cry series are going to be present in key moments and stuff like that. You're like, okay. Because, the original, the games tend to have like an industrial metal kind of, and sometimes some dance music kind of thing in there, like EDM. And like, that's fine. It's a different thing. But more specifically, it is the soundtrack of 2005, 2004, 2003. And the show takes place in the mid-aughts, right? And it's very like grounded in that, and the sound is leading to that. And the themes of this taking place in New York City are also extraordinarily strongly grounded in the early to mid-aughts United States in a way that is wildly out of touch for the Devil May Cry show, where he fights demons and go wacky woohoo man. And I'm sitting there, and I know, and Gene, I was talking to you about this. You're sitting there about halfway through the show, and you're looking at it like, are we doing this? Really? We're doing this is where the show is going. Really?
Huh. Okay. All right.
To add to that,
I mean,
I learned that Adi Shankar moved to the United States 2 days. He moved to Rhode Island, not New York City, not New Jersey, Rhode Island, 2 days before 9/11 happened. And then so now I'm seeing all these tweets that were very vague about the show, saying, why didn't Dante stop 9/11? And then I watched the show, and I was like, "Oh, I get why they were saying that."
Oh, the other thing is that, Rollin', the Limp Bizkit song, the music video is filmed on top of the World Trade Center.
Mr. President,
it's all connected.
Mr. President, a second Argosax has hit the tower.
Like,
The fucking demon in DMC 2 that comes out of that building sure does look like a giant demon terrorist attack. I guess.
Woolie. There's one good episode here, and when I say good, I mean great. There is one great episode in here, and it is the episode that has no dialogue. There is an episode that has no speaking at all until the last 90 seconds.
And then it goes terrible.
And I was watching it and I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is great. And then Lady speaks at the end of it and the episode is ruined.
Yep.
It is like a microcosm of the experience of watching the show, where you're like, yeah, Lady talked. Oh, gross. Oh.
Is there... I guess the one thing that I was curious about is there a style meter present at any point?
That's a great question. And this is like where I'm living with it. Where it's like, so Castlevania was not super faithful, and its political themes were religious, and that makes sense because vampires.
Yep.
But regardless of its lack of faithfulness in a lot of cases, you would get some fucking incredible animated action scenes, like the season 4 Day Armor and Alucard versus Trevor and the fight against Dracula, just peak animated action scenes. And that would have helped if I was annoyed by the lack of faithfulness. It would have been really nice if I wasn't bored during all of Devil May Cry's action scenes.
They're not good.
They're fine. I was talking to a friend of the show who pointed out that it's Studio Mir who does the animation for this. Mm-hmm. That the action scenes they animated for the Boondocks are of a significantly higher quality.
Wow. Okay.
Than the ones they animated here. I
did see some scenes using 3D in some of the footage that was showing off, and I did see there was a lot more than I expected there to be. That's not just that highway scene that kind of is a persistent thing, I guess.
There's more.
What Gene, what was your experience watching it?
Well, real quick, the interview that I was making beady eyes earlier on, it has to do with this, and this is not a spoiler, but it's Adi Shankar talking about how this is inspired by the movies of the 2003s, Mission Impossible 2, Underworld, The Matrix, and he says, but one of the things I found when I watched these movies is the villain didn't really reflect my experience of life, where I found that everyone is the hero of their own story. The villain has a story going on in their head in which they are the hero. They are sometimes a victim, sometimes not, but they are the hero. And I'm like, why don't these blockbusters ever explore that? So that's kind of the level of thinking and inspiration going here. And then he ends his interview by saying, I am absolutely the White Rabbit, which is the villain.
Right, that character. I would like to recommend.
Incredible. He did he's chewing up the scenery and he's great, and I love to hear Rabbit talk.
Yeah, Hoon Lee, great actor.
There's nothing providing that you're saying that the when a villain is misguidedly thinking they are correct in their actions and convicted by them, that's good, but there's a lot of things that explore that. There's a lot of things. Chan Woo Park movies, I would recommend all of those really for great examples of it. There various manga and stories we can describe where there's a compelling villain who's I believe I am correct and I'm doing the right thing. Yes, that is good, and that does get explored. That's a strange thing
that White Rabbit is super compelling. Actually, I think the villain of the show White Rabbit is by far the best part. Every time he's on screen, I'm kind of excited. Yeah. And part of that compellingness is because mistakes were made in the genesis of the show's premise that give the villain a little bit more juice more morality wise than he should have.
Oh, okay. Are we hitting that Magneto style? Like,
it's not quite there, but it's like it's a lot closer than you would expect.
Like, now hold on. Like, it's like okay, like there's horrible things happening here, but let him cook. Let him cook. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You can also feel like that this thing was like trapped in some kind of dev hell. Because a main character that is in every single episode of the show is voiced by Kevin Conroy.
Yes, it's his final role, right?
That's a shame.
Raul Julia.
He's not used well either.
Raul Julia.
No. So when I walked away from the show, when I tweeted, I said I called it mean-spirited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how I felt.
Interesting.
I felt that the show is mean. So when Pat says that it is antithetical to the spirit of the games, when you walk away from a Devil May Cry game, you know, you feel empowered, excited, exhausted, but enthralled. Kind of looking forward to the future. Oh, I just named our shop. You know? Oh, I didn't die in DMC 2 for some reason, you know? You know, my family is still alive. Oh, the legacy is being continued on, like in DMC 4. When you end DMC, the series, you just feel like, ugh, and the characters didn't really do anything or feel anything that was exciting or fun or hopeful. You just kind of end on like an ugh note, and like I can't even say more without spoiling it, but it just, you leave feeling bad and not excited.
Interesting.
Not,
interesting.
Entertained.
Because like this. Okay, go ahead.
I want to grab this. So Paige and I have a baby, which means our time watching television is highly regulated to the minutes after baby falls asleep, usually around 9:30, 10 p.m., right? So we have to be like really like, you know, on ball. Like, are we watching something? If we're going to watch it, it has to be, you know, scheduled. We have to plan for it, and it's valuable, right? So halfway through the second episode, Paige went to bed.
Okay.
She just got up and said, enjoy your show, and went to bed, which,
Okay.
But then, and I mean this, when I finished the TV show, I went, yo, Paige, you got to get in here. And she's like, what? You have to watch the last actual 5 minutes of this show. And she walked in and just went, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is this? And I was like kind of not enjoying it. And I was like, I don't think this is very good. And then it dive bombed straight into the toilet on the finish line.
Interesting. Okay.
It's
Another
wild.
thing I'll say.
So I'm really curious because again, like hearing all this, I'm like, okay, I'm still gonna go in and
I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go in clear because I'm what I'm hearing doesn't sound great, but I'm gonna be as white room with it as possible. But
let me.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to add one more thing about the action sequences that Pat said, where he said they were not good and not exciting, right? It's not a spoiler that Devil Trigger happens in the show, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, no, I would assume
we
so.
are all Devil May Cry fans. We love and worship at the altar of Devil May Cry 3. I think we all can understand that the moment Dante becomes Devil Trigger in Devil May Cry 3 is incredibly inspiring, hype moment where he met his match and he realized he needed to discover more about himself to be able to fight in this very difficult struggle and overcome the challenge, right? Devil Trigger in this show reminded me, like, it's like if Goku went Super Saiyan when he was fighting Nappa. Like dramatically, that's kind of like in DMC 3, that's like the Frieza moment, right? Where you're like, oh, this is the time where he have to go Devil Trigger, right? This is the Shonen moment. This is the Super Sentai moment, right? But it's like dramatically if Goku decided to just go Super Saiyan early and when he's fighting Nappa, and then he loses. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
And he will lose.
Okay.
It's.
Am I right, Pat?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Also, the timing of what you say works well because, like, when Goku goes Super Saiyan on the Piccolo planet, and it has like the floating rocks, and it has the good background. I think it's like dark green to contrast with the bright yellow hair. I don't think My Hero Academia Blue Skies at noon to 1 p.m. in the middle of the afternoon was the right place to show off the Devil Trigger transformation in fucking full view with no shading. I think that was a bad art decision that makes it look way worse. Because you see the DT at night in the show with shading, it looks better. But on a fucking blue Photoshop background with nothing, it's
I see.
Tonally, aesthetically, it just feels completely off, and it's like, why is this the first time we're seeing Devil Trigger? Okay, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can I also make a minor complaint? I think it is wrong for characters in a Devil May Cry property to say the words Devil Trigger out loud with their mouth. I think that is wrong to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that because in my perspective, that is something where Virgil is like, no, that is my true form. That is my father's form. And for him, he's like, I hate this, actually. I'm like my mom, leave me alone, right? So that's just two sides of the coin that they are as the duality of human and demon. Okay, well, I mean, look, so I've seen some bits. I've seen the wacky woohoo pizza man has done irreparable harm to the Devil May Cry franchise, and the idea that as an outside observer looking at it simply for that being what it is, and I guess almost like looking at old God of War is like Kratos is angry killer god man. There's a singular dimension to this, and I now here's the thing is with the idea of a lot of that being misunderstood, I definitely don't want to go in setting expectations to be like, no, Devil May Cry is like, this is a Harry Dubois level character that we need to sink into, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Dante is not that deep.
No, and so my kind of hope with this show, I guess, and expectations were in terms of what I'm setting it at. It has been just like, well, it's not just wacky woohoo pizza man, but I'm just kind of hoping, okay, if we're getting sad boys masking their sadness with style and pizza and such, then sure, right? We're a little bit closer to that part of it. There's the bit of like family, there's the bit of the demon legacy, lineage and legacy, exactly, and finding your own thing, separation versus unity, yada yada, right? But I guess the whole thing with it and why I was looking at the trailer going, okay, let's see how this goes, is because I was also very prepared, and still am, for like a One Piece live action style. Oh, this is not the thing you love, but that was an interesting thing, right? And like, I also feel that, when we talk about adaptations and things like, and how they're not necessary and all that bit, I'm like, yeah, no Devil May Cry medium without gameplay is ever going to encapsulate what that thing is and why I care about it fully. And in the same, when I talk about the other things I love, where I'm just like, yeah, we don't need to see this shift into that space necessarily. With this, it's like, okay, Netflix adaptations of things are going to happen. They're going to do this. There's no way to be like, the games are fine. We don't need this. It is what it is. My hope is that you would get a short and sweet, completely different thing that was still just like, okay, well, that's fine for what it was, right? But I also say that about One Piece while having zero connection to the original source material there as well, mind you, right? Yeah.
So One Piece is a bad example to use as something different. One Piece Netflix is like more faithful to One Piece than the Lord of the Rings films are.
Okay.
Like, Like it is like
because and he was there overseeing them, right? Like
the changes that it makes are the changes that are required for TV.
Okay.
But like it is absolutely like we're doing One Piece, and because Oda was there and Oda had the kill switch, he could ripcord it at any time.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that so it's more faithful than as a thing. Okay, right, fair enough.
I think it's closer to the Cowboy Bebop Netflix show, honestly.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of something perhaps that was like a short and sweet but different thing that was like, this is not at all what the source thing was, but in the end, for its own thing, I was like, yeah, that's fine. It's just a different thing over there, you know. But
down to Faye Valentine saying, "Welcome to the ouch, motherfuckers."
I'm gonna say something brave.
Okay, here we go.
This television show does not feel like Devil May Cry at all. I would say at all.
Mm-hmm.
This television show feels like it came out of the same writer's notebook that DMC Devil May Cry came out of. Sure. In tone, in characterization, in style.
I did not ask the obvious question, but the obvious question remains in the air.
I might even go further and say I think DMC Devil May Cry by Ninja Theory is a better written piece of work.
You know
what? Than the show. Because when I say that it is mean-spirited,
wow.
spoiler alert for DMC. When you think about mean-spirited in the original DMC game, you think about the
moment... in DMC!
Never surrender! Never surrender! My name is Dante.
Right? You think about the sniper moment in DMC, right? And why that was mean-spirited and gross, right? Oof. But it also fed into the arc of Virgil becoming a scumbag. It fed into the narrative that, this guy Virgil, my brother, might not be a really good guy to align with. But when gross and mean things happen in Devil May Cry, the Netflix series, I feel like it's not necessary because we already know things about that character that is only getting worse now.
Like the sniper moment gives a chance for Ninja Theory's Dante to go, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Holy shit!"
Yeah,
and that kind of just never happens.
Okay.
in the Netflix show.
So, I mean, you're describing Lady as like particularly detestable. Do you like Dante?
Lady is a Hitler in this show. I'm so serious. It's so out of control.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I have never seen a character swing so hard in one direction.
Do you like Dante?
He's cool. Dante's all right, but cool. He's like too dumb.
He's dumb, and there is a story change to him that drastically changes the dynamic of how he interacts with the world and the story. Can we talk about
it in the second episode? The second episode, we find out something about this version of Dante that like dramatically changes how he interacts with every single thing of the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you mind, Woolie? It's in episode 2.
Sure.
He doesn't know that Sparta is his father.
Okay.
He doesn't know he's a demon either.
Okay. So. Okay. Well, so this
the damage is happening. He doesn't know he's half demon either.
That's no. But his personality needs to have. Okay. Fuck me. That
affects everything.
Touches everything. That's really not a good change to make. It's pulling on a thread that keeps the garment together. Fuck. Shit.
Tasting blood.
Oh my god. Damn, that sucks, man. Okay.
Oh man, the frenzy meter is going up right now. Jesus.
Because I was about to ask, because I said, do you like Dante? And then you said this, and then I was going to ask, do you like Virgil? You know?
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
Okay. All right. All right.
Gene, you with me on that?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, how can you?
Okay.
You know.
Also of note is that existing songs in Devil May Cry are used nearly exclusively for a cappella slow credits.
Man World style Gears of War.
Yeah,
slow down. Car commercial, slow down.
There are like 3 instances of like 30 seconds of famous songs playing throughout the show.
Devil Trigger had no guitars or no drums or no.
The version of Devil Trigger in this show is bad.
I heard that
it is bad. It is a bad rendition of Devil Trigger,
like
which is
Casey Edwards had a remix or something like that. Well, you got to save the standard version for Nero.
Remix.
No, I said you got to save the original version for Nero, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You're gonna reach that far.
Yeah.
I'm really stuck on the differences between a coming of age tale with a character that doesn't know he's this special boy versus the one who grew up with his family but didn't fully accept all of himself, and the difference between him and his twin. And
I'm going to save you from that dichotomy right now.
And the parental,
this is not a coming of age story because he doesn't come of age.
Okay.
That character development does not occur.
If he came of age, I would not be saying this is antithetical to DMC when you walk away from the ending feeling bad. That's part
Characters,
of the bad
by
feeling.
Large, just exit the story the same way they came in.
Yeah, that's part of the bad feeling. It's like, oh, nothing happened with that character.
And the other part, well, I guess I shouldn't say too much because I'm still I'll see, but I guess I'm just thinking about how there's so much grounded in, obviously, like, the lineage, the family, etc., how everything they are, they're the majority of their struggles, but then also how every other demon interfaces with Dante and Virgil is in relation to who the fuck their father was. 100% of the demons they talk to are all like, oh, you're his kid, huh? Oh yeah, okay, well, I got a story about him, so.
Well, don't worry, because the demons have more dialogue with Lady than they do with Dante.
Okay.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, you can really tell during the writing process when Shakar watched The Raid.
Shankar?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
This is my.
By the way, I'm sorry, I keep botching his name. I'm not
Adi,
familiar with
Adi
it.
Shankar.
I'm sorry. I don't want to be
Shankar.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
This is my first exposure to Adi Shankar. Well, I watched the Castlevania show, right? But this is my first exposure to Adi Shankar as a person and as a personality. He has that pinned tweet of him dressed as Dante, and if you notice, and a good friend pointed this out, you look at his amulet, Sparta amulet, and it is not the Sparta amulet from the regular series. It is
DMC.
It's the DMC. It's the DMC amulet, right? Yeah.
One, right. Yeah. So that might be informative. That on top of, and we already kind of touched on, like, how this show kind of touches on U.S. imperialism and la-di-da-la, and not to get too spoilery, but it does do that, right? It's hard to take that stuff and not see it as disingenuous when he, just a couple months ago, was attending the inauguration festivities for Donald Trump.
Okay.
And I'm not...
I think I can guess.
Has nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Yeah.
I think I can guess something about what you're saying, though, in terms of, like, well, now I'm imagining with these, very similar to human ass demons, and Lady being, as you're describing her, like a fucking goose stepping, marching Ziegler. I'm kind of like, well,
I'm calling Lady a Hitler in this show. I mean it with my whole chest. It's so extreme.
So I'm just kind of auto-completing the, like, occupation of the demon world and the subjecting demons to, yes.
I don't know what he's talking about. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. So, what if we look at demons as people that are being colonized and yeah. Okay.
But they never tell stories like this, Woolie. They never do.
Okay.
Never do.
Actually, Gene, you brought up that he cosplayed Dante at WWE Raw, and I think the actual damning indictment of that is that he's not smiling in the photo that he asked to be took and staring directly into the hard camera. And it makes me think about, like, Woolie, we've talked about it over and over on the show. It's like, Dante is supposed to be a guy who is cool without smoking, and implicit, doesn't swear either. Nero is like edgy and crass because he says shit.
Dino, on the other hand, smokes and bangs girls and fucking does it while screaming
like,
every.
That's kind of what we got going on. Is like, fuck smoking. Let's do drugs and swear every day. Like it just feels like. I don't know.
Okay, so
not to say that attending any Donald Trump or anything means anything. I'm just saying, to attend the inauguration ceremonies, like as somebody who has attended events with the presidents there and the White House, there are several steps along the way where you are making several decisions to continue to make that decision to attend these festivities, including Secret Service background checks, and you could just be like, man, this is kind of weird. Maybe I should just not go. But no, he just he committed to every single step to make it all the way up here so he can walk around the crowds and be like, wow, look at the crowds for the new president right now.
So I guess he's the kind of director that you guys are saying took something of his own and put that
very personal
into
experience.
the IP, which a lot of good directors do that. But
absolutely.
But in this case, it's replacing what was there instead of like.
I mean, I think the main problem is that the specific nature of the commentary he wants to make is an incredibly clumsy and bad fit for Devil May Cry. Like it is. Like this is. I remember there's an interview with Stan Lee in which he described that the analog of the X-Men to gay people was not perfect because gay people can't shoot laser beams out of their eyes. It is way more awkward than that.
Also, something civil rights and
something
and a million other versions of oppressed people in general and such. I think well,
none of those groups can shoot lasers out of their eyes either, so the point more or less stands.
The fuck you know about black people, Pat?
I know you can't. If you could shoot lasers out of your eyes, I would be in a crater somewhere 18, 19 years ago when you got sick of my shit and kicked me out of your house. Or you wouldn't have been freaked out when that guy broke into your house to play Guilty Gear because you could have just laser beamed him out the window.
Well, he too was.
That's true. He also had the. Yes, true.
It would have been a stalemate laser battle. Sometimes we've got to save some shit and not tell y'all about everything. All right. The memo went around. Listen, the electric powers are super real, by the way.
Yeah, that I haven't seen them, but I'll take your word for it.
We absolutely conduct electricity. Just so you know, we wear yellow and we conduct electricity. Don't get it twisted. It's funny to think about this part where you're describing, I guess the messaging and the personal story kind of put into this because. The stuff that was like catching our attention about DMC back in the day, just like cool action, air combos, doing the style of having gameplay be as stylish as a really awesome cutscene be. It's become more and more regular to games to kind of like do the thing that Devil May Cry once was special for doing, right? Like you're now seeing Final Fantasy be like, yeah, we're going to do some of that, right? People have described for me, like they're like Kingdom Hearts at peak is doing some crazy character action stuff. And
yeah, absolutely.
And now we've got fucking, you got your Zenless Zone Zeros, Genshin Impacts, and Grand Blue all kind of doing little bits there too. So that has been, an interesting journey of watching things get more over the top with it. But at the same time, in animation, a lot of studios are also doing crazy high octane Naruto insane scenes, of like Sakuga moments that have also become more frequent and they've become less of a rare thing. So when I think about Devil May Cry, I think there's probably a good number of choices you could have gone to fit the action of what I want a Dante action scene to look like. There's a lot of different studios or places where they could have hit Sakuga. So it kind of makes it more almost important to be like, okay, these people could have done really cool choreography, but who's going to handle the rest of it? Right? And like that stuff becomes more important as a result, because if it wasn't necessarily Studio Mir, I don't think it would have been like, I mean, they're a very good studio, but I think there's others that definitely could do cool shit with characters slamming into walls, flipping off of them, and like dashing into, zooming, like all the effects and Itano circuses that we're seeing all over the place. Like a lot of the people making and directing action now grew up watching a lot of things like that and are inspired by that. So take that same rhythm into choreography.
So they're kind of in a bad spot with this, because whoever is going to be directing the action in the Devil May Cry series is having to compete with Yuji Shimomura, and that's hard because the guy who worked with Kitamura on fucking Versus and went on to direct the action cutscenes in Bayonetta and Devil May Cry and Death Stranding, like that's tough to reach. And there's your direct one-to-one comparison, right? It's like this is the level of bombastic action I expect out of Devil May Cry, and I know that because I can watch a Devil May Cry 5 or Devil May Cry 3 cutscene, and it's right there. On the other hand, you have Powerhouse Animation Studios, who worked on the Castlevania series. And you're like, okay, well, for a Netflix-produced animated series featuring action game characters, this is the expectation of what I think it would look like. And these comparisons are unfavorable. As direct as they are, and as like brotherly and closely related as they are, they're unfavorable. The action in the Devil May Cry show is fine.
And it should be amazing.
It should be. I don't care if this show sucks. Look at these action scenes.
I'm putting that commercial from DMC 2 where he breaks through the church glass window into my outro, because look at that shit, even though it's Devil May Cry 2. Yeah. Okay.
Like, why is the Devil May Cry show about air combos significantly worse in action choreography than 7 seasons of Avatar made off of a budget of nothing?
I guess one last bit I'm curious about here, because again, I feel like with Castlevania and Addy being the director there, it's just it's a straight point of comparison, and that was generally a success, minus I guess the seasons you said that perhaps fell off. When Castlevania did go bad for those seasons, did it?
It has one bad season.
One bad season. Okay.
It goes 1 and 2 are great. 3 is very mid, and 4 is pretty good.
Okay. Because I was going to ask if it goes off for similar reasons, in that it's like, is it about lack of faithfulness? Is it about just the new shit not being that compelling? Does it stray in a similar way?
I can tell you what it is. Season 3 has the overwhelming feeling of, we got greenlit for another season. We don't know what to do with it.
Okay, a feeling of filler, and
it is filler. The dialogue also
kind of spinning wheels. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of spinning wheels. Narratively doesn't really go that far. The characters have an arc, but like it just kind of happens.
Okay.
There's also something in season 4 of Castlevania that is a one-off note that shows up in DMC Devil May Cry, and it's a scene in which Trevor holds up a cross, and Sifa says to him, "Oh yeah, the cross. Vampires hate the cross because of God." And he goes, "Nah, their eyes have weird convex parts of them for predator vision. So right angles on any architecture or object make them anxious and upset." And it's just this absolutely ridiculous desire to demystify fucking vampires.
I totally forgot about that.
And Devil May Cry has that all over the place. I'm like, I don't get it.
Okay.
Why can't it just be magic? They spend probably 15 to 20 total minutes over the course of 8 episodes with exposition that only exists to tell you this isn't magic. It's not magic. It is science. It's not magic's not real. It's not real.
These guns are special. These guns are not magic. These are special tech.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Dante barely shoots guns, by the way.
Yeah, and it's just like, but why? Well, you could have saved so much time. What was the purpose of? We're talking about demons from hell. Like what? Plasma's turning into. Oh man, you know what? Can I pull out a Plinkett-ism for this?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the big complaints that Red Letter Media made about the directing style of the prequels was that every single time someone drops the lightsaber, the movies cut to a dropped lightsaber reaction shot. Like it is a 100% hit rate. Yeah. In Devil May Cry, you have a character named Plasma. He's the bat Cyclops guy made out of electricity that can turn into other characters. And every single time he shows up on screen as a different character that you saw him turn into, he will turn to the camera and flash his eyes red and go a little electricity-wise to make sure that you know that that's Plasma transformed. That's Plasma.
Action figure shot. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you were doing the laundry while streaming the show in the background. So we just want to make sure that you know that this guy is not actually the guy.
Man,
yeah, seriously, just like it's crazy every single time. Oh my God.
I guess it joins, other company then, because really it seems like almost everything has struggled to adapt to Devil May Cry. When we think about, like, there's not just, DMC, Dino, but there's also that comic book series that was really weird that I've got sitting around somewhere. There was the manga. I feel like Visions of V is the one that I hear people really liked, and I see getting used a lot as like a solid adaptation that was like faithful and expanded on the source material in a way that people are like, well, no, this is canon.
Yeah.
But just about every other version of it, I feel like, has just been like, oh my God, like the less we say about that, the better, So
I think Devil May Cry has shown itself to be uniquely difficult to adapt. And I think there's a version of that thing you were just saying, Woolie. There's one of them you forgot, is that Devil May Cry has not just struggled to be adapted into TV and comics and manga. It has also struggled to be adapted into its own video game.
Yeah.
Different people.
Yeah.
It is a very specific team with a very specific, sincere vision. Mm-hmm. And it makes me think of this show being the Ace Combat Assault Horizon to the Ace Combat series. A series that I love Ace Combat, and I don't love Ace Combat just for plain shooting at each other. I love Ace Combat for its absurdly emotional and sincere storytelling that is totally ridiculous in a dogfighting game.
I love the music.
And kind of the same here with Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry is hyper sincere, despite the fact that it's stupid as shit.
So I guess I wonder then, like, we often talk about, when we say like Itsuno talking about like the gameplay, and we talk about like Kamiya back in the day and all that. But the stories were always written by Bingo Morihashi. Mm-hmm. And that's just writer over at Capcom doing the scenario planning and everything. And I'm kind of wondering, like, is this a kind of case where you like with One Piece or with Oda, you just gonna be like, hey, can you oversee this and pull a plug or press a button if you need to just see if it's coherent, if it passes a sanity check? I don't know that Capcom necessarily would have sent anyone over to be like, review this to see if it takes or not. They were also telling Ninja Theory to go further and further with Dino back in the day. They said
that was
not different enough.
Inafune's time,
right? But yeah, I kind of just wonder about the whole like, hey, the adaptation that worked for Netflix was the one where there was oversight from the original kind of creator of sorts, and it's weird in Devil May Cry's case because it feels like you don't need to be like have the writer looking over it because it is pretty simple. I imagine there's a million ways to fuck up One Piece, just like there was a million ways to fuck up Cowboy Bebop and Death Note, right? This shouldn't require that, but maybe it just needs it, you know? I don't know. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, so there are a lot of people who like this, and as a show completely by itself, absent of the world it exists in, this is probably a pretty enjoyable watch. But every single second I am watching it, I'm like, why are you making the characters that I like act like this? Why? What the fuck? Why is Dante just Deadpool now?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because combos, violence, action, and quips, you know? Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a character I can compare Lady to that not just say she's a Hitler in terms of like unlikableness and violence, and I am struggling.
But I can see it because it's like because she's always been dead serious and like angry and like kind of like Dante's like woo, and then she's like fuck you shot, and he's like haha, you know. So I could
just a dynamic, yeah. Exactly.
But I could just see that like anger just like being like okay, and then we put
remember when
a uniform
she invented
on,
a new racial slur for Dante in Devil May Cry 3?
Bathroom break? Anybody?
Yeah, let's yeah. Dog needs a bathroom break too. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. One more thing.
I have one more observation about the DMC show that I think people might be interested in. Is that this show is meant to evoke the early aughts, right? 2003, 2005, or whatever like that. Which feels weird for the show, and I think I know the reason why. Because Devil May Cry himself, the character and the spirit of the games, mostly inspired by the 80s, to be quite honest, right? Glam rock, metal, hair metal, and also Michael Jackson, obviously, in DMC 5. I think the spirit is like more punk 80s, like 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Versus kind of shoehorning like the new metal aesthetic into this. You know?
I think it's there in the sense that like, you know, genres inspire genres, and like he's got a big long leather trench coat for sure. But then there's also the discussion about how like each of those main characters represents a different genre of music. You know, if you know, Dante is death metal and Nero is punk and that whole thing, you know. So I think so. But I guess when I think of 80s inspired things, like it I feel like Dante, looking at him, he feels like he's coming more after the 90s. He feels like he's coming post grunge, you know, with again, and then you just throw a big leather coat on it and stuff. So I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's. I'm sure there's a discussion to be had where there's different influences and stuff, but also pulling out nunchucks, you know what I mean, and doing a lot of there's a little bit of that. When I think of pizza, I think of Ninja Turtle style characters from 90s cartoons as well. So I don't know. It's a little all over the place, really.
It's a pastiche of different influences, but before 2000, right? And then now it's like, we're adding, you know, Limp Bizkit and Papa Roach into the Dante Must Die soup,
right?
Basically,
I think a good indicator as well too is like you can do a lot with a character's hair to say something about what they're inspired by or what era they're from, you know, and they definitely chose to not go with long locks. They didn't go with a ponytail. They didn't go with, you know, like shaved or mohawks or anything. They just kind of went with like just coiffed, droopy kid, you know, messy trunks hair. You know,
are you specifically referencing like Dante's original design hair or this show?
Oh, I'm Dante's original design hair. Yeah.
I mean, his hair is like that because he used to be Leon.
Okay, right. Okay,
That's true. Yeah, that's it. He was supposed to be handsome boy Leon.
That's why his hair looks like that.
Wasn't but weren't original Dante and Virgil, the Umbrella twins, were like original characters where you saw the baby with the Umbrella logo on them, and they were going to be.
Cry 1 is from an RE4 prototype, and then the prototype after that became Hookman. Like it was Leon, like in prototype form, and then they just.
Was there a step?
Just kept rolling it forward.
So there was a step where the prototype went from being Leon to being like these twins, and then after that, it just stopped being RE together. Okay, because I thought I knew it was like RE related, but I thought it was always an original character because of that photo of the babies with the Umbrella logo. You know. Okay, well.
Yeah, that actually came and went in the actual Resident Evil series, and then it fucking just nothing happened with it.
Well,
that storyline did come and go.
Isn't that just Jake, right? Genetically engineered? No. Okay. All right.
That's the Weskers.
The Wesker baby. Okay.
Jake is Wesker, right?
The Weskers.
Oh, plural. Okay. Gotcha.
The batch of genetically engineered Weskers.
Tony Redgrave, as that name carries forward.